thanks everyone for being present and sharing out. We'll try to keep things moving along here. Now, I wanted to take just a second. You got a couple emails from me, I think, the last week or two, invitations, things like that, about something called Colleague Connect. And so I wanted to take a second to just pitch this to you all so you have a sense of what this time's about, and what to expect if you do take advantage of this kind of town hall or community space. Um, so, basically, the fact of the matter is we are in a wild time that I don't think many of us have prepared for or experienced before. And it's evolving every day, right? What is, the right balance between um, uh, all these things that are important in the learning and development of the youth that we all try to serve in various capacities, um, as well as what could this look like in the future, what people are doing to address issues in the present that are popping up left and right because they're things we've never thought about, um, and just generally how people are moving forwards in this time. So this Colleague Connect time is an hour every other Friday, and the State Support Team Network's Colleague Connect will start next Friday. And it's really just a space for you to connect, hear about what's going well, what new challenges are coming up, how we might address those, and then also to just hear about current events, anecdotes, and maybe even some questions we have. Right now, I know we at the center are even getting into like really big, philosophical conversations about like, what education can look like now that it's been so kind of like knocked off track and things like that. The status quo, that is, knocked off track. So I know that there's a lot of big conversations going on. There's a lot of uncertainty in some areas, and we're all growing through that in our own ways. And we wanted to present a space and time for you all to come together and discuss it in a kind of professional context where you can talk in your jargon, you can talk in your slang, you can use as many acronyms as you want to a bunch of people who will understand what you're talking about and be able to give feedback. So, like I said, the link is in the invitations and also up in the PowerPoint if you uh, um, are on next Friday and want to know where to go. And we'll open that up, and we might have one or two things to share with you, but like I said, mostly a time to connect and keep moving forwards as we continue to adapt to what supporting families and students in this time look like. So with that, I'd love to just get a little bit of feedback, if that is, something that sounds like a good idea, something that could be useful to you all. I know we are zoomed out to the capacity, so obviously something to be wary of as well. But also, if you have current events or best practices emerging from your organization, please share.
So thanks everyone for that. Tom, you want us to pause now? We've got folks we're going to add to the list.
Yeah, and if anyone wanted to share anything, that's cool. If not, we can keep cruising because we'll keep sharing.
So this is Anita. I have a question. So
sure.
We need to ask to be added to this list, or because we're part of this group, we will automatically receive this invitation?
So Anita, I believe that you should have received the invitation, but if not, just if you didn't receive this invitation, or if you're unsure, feel very free to throw your email address in the chat box or raise your hand, and we'll make sure to make that happen.
Okay. So it was sent out. I probably have it, and I just okay.
Yeah, and we didn't send out we know that there has been you know, a barrage of email communication from all directions and things like that. So we just kind of sent out the invitations via Outlook and tried to break down kind of what this description shares in the invitation. So you might have not necessarily pulled it out because it didn't come in like an email or an overview or
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
But if you want to make sure you're on the list and just double check, feel free to throw your name in there. Like I said, this is a time, optional time, and a time for people to come together if that's something that is useful. We've been learning a lot from you all already. We've been learning a lot from our district leaders already and some of the new challenges that are popping up. So really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I suppose like many of you are doing, you know, wanting to be accessible, but not wanting to be one more expectation. So I think it was a time where we want to say, we're there, we're in a meeting room, virtual meeting space, and come or don't come with questions or come with ideas, just a space to chat and to know if you have a question or something you sort of count on. At least, you know, those of us from OSU being in the room. And then we're also doing the same thing, Tom, is the same thing arranged for the Family Engagement Leaders of Ohio group, the fellows. So every other week, we've got just an open time for them. So that group was meeting quarterly or sort of every, quarterly? Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
So, yeah. So excited for any of you who opt to sort of at any point in time join into those.
Yeah, and I would totally say, I know that some of you all have jumped onto the fellows mailing list to be in some of their learning, because their meetings, right, are more set up around professional development and resource sharing and stuff. So if you do want to participate in those conversations, you can feel free, I suppose, to go to either, but just know that the SST Colleague Connect will be very much a safe space for state support teams, other regional supports, state people and stuff that way. The district one is going to be very focused on the needs of people who are working in districts. So would encourage you to probably go to the SST one, but feel free to do whatever makes sense for you. So appreciate it. Moving on. Okay. So and thanks for the feedback. I see a lot of feedback coming in the chat, so that's very helpful. We're gonna move on. We've been doing some big time work in our work groups this year, and one of those work groups, of course, is our Family Engagement and Early Literacy work group. And I'll turn it over to Barb in that group now to talk about some of this resource sharing and review that we're going to do today.
Yeah. And I just want to respond to one of the folks in the chat. You said, "Now, should I hit accept?" Don't worry about hitting accept. We can always look at the scheduling assistant in Outlook and see, who's accepted or not, or it's really just not that formal. We'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a last minute change and you have accepted, like, it's just not a must do, it's a can do. So no pressure at all about that. Just wanted to provide some space. All right, so early literacy group, Jen and Heidi, this is really the group that they have been leading, as one of our work groups here. And so we have sort of an activity to do that went out in our meeting request for today, and that is an accompaniment to the resource that's on your screen, which this small group developed along with many of you in the network. So the idea is now to accompany the rubric with resources. So if a school, if a BLT or another school group were to use the rubric and say, boy, we really want to roll up our sleeves and do some work in the area of supporting early literacy at home, or we really want to communicate better with families, according to the rubric, that's really where we want to roll up our sleeves and work. What would be resources that we might take a look at? What would be helpful to us if we were to want to go to action after using the rubric? So I'm going to be quiet for a minute, let Heidi and Jen jump in, and then Tom, if you'll flip to the next slide
Absolutely.
for us, well, I can. Thank you. So we have a place for everybody to jump into. So Heidi or Jen,
So
or
this
both of
is
you can unmute your
yep.
mics. And
So we wanted to make sure that we could connect some state regional resources so that, and I'm going to just kind of walk you through an example. So if we decided that we really want to work in the area of literacy and communication, what would be a good place or some good resources to start that two-way communication? So we may, in the examples document, we may give some website areas like Remind and Class Dojo and how you can turn on the two-way communication. So we wanted to give the region some quick resources. And I'm sure your email has been like mine, where we have got hit pretty hard with a lot of resources, but those resources need to get vetted. So what we're asking is, if in recent times you've come across like a really great family engagement resource that will connect early literacy, and you're like, I think this would be a great resource to get connected to this rubric, this is a great opportunity and time for you to do that. And we want to get all those golden nuggets in one document. So it'll be a growing and living document. So as links change or whatever, we can continually update them. So that link there is to a Google Doc, which will be, we will, in each area of the rubric, our goal is to get some of those really golden nuggets in each one of those areas so that we can support a BLT in going forward. Here's a great starting place to start growing that area. So Jen, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think another opportunity we have is to really showcase the hard work that some of our Partnerships for Literacy teams have done. I know, for example, my team has been really working on solidifying some elements of their MTSS model. So I think that's a good way to kind of hook our BLTs especially, and maybe embed some things that are available, such as they created kind of an Acadience, which is what Dibbles is now called, trying to get used to the new name, but a reporting sheet to families kind of. So as they are benchmarking and progress monitoring children, it's more of a user-friendly way to share information with parents and then connect them with some of the great videos and toolkits that they have made to support learning at home. So I think if a BLT is working through something and says, oh, that sounds great, that sounds like a great next step for us, and they're able to click and see an example of what something looks like and sounds like and feels like, that it's going to feel a lot more doable for them and kind of create more clear action steps, I think. So we're also looking for those wonderful examples that we know are being used across the spectrum, preschool and beyond, pre-K 2, 3, 5. So whatever you have, we really appreciate.
Barbara, you're muted.
sorry about that. Simplest things. All right, in your chat, there's a link to a Google Doc, and so we kind of want to have an all play on this. If you all would copy that link, it's on the slide or it's in the chat there. Mm-hmm. If you would copy that and put it into your browser and head over to a new page on your in your browser, and if we could all jump in there together, and if you are feeling like you've got a resource to share, that would be awesome for you to put it in there. We have a space for name, maybe a link or a location, where in the area of the rubric that would be. And so if you look on the slide, just so that you are, before you head there, the rubric has one area around understanding families. So really understanding families helps us to support them in their child's early literacy. So what are resources for understanding families? It might be something to help understand English learners or any family. So right, any ways, resources for understanding families, resources for communication with families, two-way communication, resources for supporting early literacy at home, resources in the community.
Should also all be early literacy sort of focused.
Yeah, all. Mm-hmm. All early literacy focused. So the rubric has those sort of main key areas. You'll recognize they're similar to Epstein's 6 areas. But if you jump into that Google Doc there, we can all sort of interact there now for a little while, and then we'll come back to this meeting room. Any questions? You can unmute your mic or put them in the chat box.
So, Barbara, you want resources that we're already familiar with, not just topics. Is that right?
Yes, please. Yes, please. It's that resource that when someone says that you would say, here's a resource I would recommend. Something, I think when Heidi was saying, something that we've already vetted. We've already know this is a good resource.
Okay.
Free resources or any from Jackie. I suppose any, Jackie, and we could always indicate on there that if there's a cost associated with something. And just as you all are typing, I don't mean to sort of interrupt, the work group has a start on this, but we knew we were just limited to sort of the work group's resources. And so that's why we thought in talking to you all about it, there would be more, that you would have resources to add. So this is just us saying we want to increase it, include the resources that you all are familiar with as well.
This is fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
I like seeing everyone typing.
And in yellow on the top of the rubric are those areas. If you're thinking, trying to remember what are those areas that the rubric is organized within.
I'm excited to see some of the volunteering links because I think that we were kind of limited in some of those resources. So I'm so excited that some people came up with the volunteering one. So these are great. And definitely get to look and add. And I would also add that this will, if you needed more time or whatever, that we're going to have this link open. So feel free to add to it when you get some time this week.
I thought of one. The little help me grow packets are good for literacy.
Oh, this is really great.
Oops, daisy.
All right. So I see a few more folks are still writing. Heidi or Jen, did you want to add anything?
I will just tell you that our committee is continuing to work on this, and we're hoping to get it out, but it's just a work in progress. We keep on like going back and forth, and you get like hard to really squeeze in the time. But our group is at the point now where we're like, we want to get this examples document out. This is a great time to get this resource out to schools and BLTs. So I would just say that if you know of any resources that you would like to be included, because we're just going to try to vet out these resources, put them in the rubric, and then send it out, and knowing that this is a living and growing document and we can change it and update it as we see needed. So please, anytime you come across a great resource, please send it our way and put it in this document. Would be super helpful. And thank you for helping, and appreciate it.
So Jen, or Heidi and Jen, so when you feel like we're ready to put these, I see us as being able to sort of create a web page we already have the rubric on the website with its own page, so we could fairly easily, if you've got these sort of, we've got them grouped into those different areas, I think that we could create a landing page that has these links on it. That's, so folks if they have the the rubric, then this is there as well. And if it's web-based, that'll be super easy to add to and update.
Yeah, the examples document that we kind of have it in two areas. So like if we have communication, and then we have, here are some web links, and then here are some resources, and we list out the resources. So we kind of have it in two buckets underneath each of the areas. And so you'll get to see that. So I guess if it's just a resource, please list that as well. But we do have a really good start on it. I would say that we probably have at least 10 resources in each one of these items now. So.
All right. So next steps will be to pull it together and make it accessible for everybody. Okay. All right. So is there anyone else who, I think so Jen and Heidi will be in contact with you. If there anyone else would like to be included in that, we could organize a small meeting and maybe make that final step of pulling them together and getting them posted. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone for jumping in and participating in that.
Yeah, can't thank you all enough because there was more than a few resources being shared there, so we appreciate it and look forward to digging into a couple of those. Um, and thank you to the Family Engagement and Early Literacy group for pulling all this together. A lot of great work going on, and something that is really, really, I feel like a usable tool at the heart of all this. So really great. We also have some other work groups doing phenomenal things right now. And so I wanted to take a moment to see if there are any updates from the PBIS work group. I'm not particularly sure right now who from the group is on the call, but I was wondering if someone on the group could give updates, and if not, I could give them, I suppose.
Sorry, I feel ill prepared to do this. I was
Yeah.
hoping Anthony or Marlo would be
I
on
know.
here. So I have like nothing written down. I'm sure there's a meeting. I think there's a meeting coming up. Sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a meeting coming up, and then I think we also had been talking about some conference opportunities that, of course, are kind of fingers crossed at this point. So we'll see how that continues, but yeah, feel free to share our rubric and our at-home guide that we finished, maybe like 2 months ago, how to kind of continue the activities and habits of PBIS at
yes.
school at
Just
home.
a small update. We are in the process of getting that document translated into multiple languages. So the PBIS at home chart will be shareable with a wider audience once it's translated. So we're very excited about that.
Great. We did have some updates. Feel good about that.
And that work group was scheduled to meet again on May 7th. I know there's some other meetings at that time, so we'll check in with others on the work group and be getting the word out to you all. If you have not been a part of that work group and you want to be included on that work group's sort of emails with each other, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure to share that with Anthony and Marla and the others on that group.
Yeah, it's a great group because
Okay.
I'm on it. No, I'm just kidding. But other group that I am also on, which is also a great group, but also a great group about great meetings, is the Great Meetings work group. And a lot of good work moving in this group. I was wondering if, Megan, you might want to share some updates about this work.
Sure. We met a couple weeks ago and kind of went over the feedback that we got from our last group in-person meeting. So we kind of just refocused. The feedback that we had gotten was, is this really about special ed meetings or all family meetings? So we took that feedback and kind of looked through our PowerPoint and talked about things, and then took our own work back and we're kind of reworking some of that PowerPoint and reworking some of the resources and videos. And our main focus the last meeting was kind of how will this be presented or how will this be sent out? So that's really like what we're working through right now. And then we have a meeting scheduled, I think it's next week or coming up soon, to kind of look through what we've done and talk about the next steps and how to get it out. So that's where we are right now. Anything to add?
Yeah, other group members, anything? No. Okay, cool. No, I thought that was a great summation of what we are working on. And it was also thank you not only to the work group's work and Megan's kind of work coalescing some of this stuff, but thank you to the people at the last network in-person meeting for going through kind of the draft that we had at that time, giving a lot of feedback. It was super helpful to kind of narrow some things together. I keep doing like a lot of hand motions that I feel like you're not picking up on. So my apologies for that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our updates, which are, mighty and exciting. So one thing that came in the email reminder for this meeting was the dates for next year. pretty straightforward. We check these against as many major conferences as we could, ODE, literacy, network dates, other stuff that we're a part of. So we double and triple check this as much as we could to make sure that they were going to be at times where there wouldn't be other kind of like statewide or regional type obligations. Same type of format, not really anything surprising. We're going to do some webinars and 4 in-person meetings. If right now anyone has any ideas for topics that they'd like to see covered in webinars or learn about at in-person meetings, feel free to share them in the chat. We will also have an end-of-year survey for the network that will allow you to share some of those ideas. So just get thinking about things that you want some learning about that we can help connect you to. Any kind of questions or thoughts or concerns about this guy? Cool. Yeah, I also posted this PDF in the network space, the page on our website for network members. So if you lose it in your email somewhere or whatever, feel free to jump on there, and the PDF's right there. I'm going to throw it over to Barbara for something to give an update on something that we're really proud of at the center. We kicked off a newsletter a couple weeks ago, and Barbara will give you an update on that.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Tom, that was perfectly timed because both of my dogs just ran right up to me and had a barking frenzy. So I was so glad to be able to mute my mic just then. All right, I've been rescued. Okay, so, you know, we were trying to figure out, there's so many different ways that you all are responding and we're all responding. We're trying to be helpful. We're trying not to have so many resources that people are just don't know where to look, or, you know, how do we help provide support and direction that's meaningful and people can pick it up and use it, and it's sort of real time, just in time. So we had been wanting to do a newsletter for a while, and so we decided that this was a time for us that we could sort of put out in sort of bite-sized digestible pieces each week, a newsletter, or it might be more similar to a blog, where we're focused on something that we feel like we hear from you all and from districts and schools that they're working in this area. So the first 3 newsletters are all available online, but you can also, if you haven't received it, you can get online and subscribe. If you're welcome to share it. Thanks to Jackie for giving us the heads up to just put that subscription down at the bottom of it. And so for right now, these are once a week. And then I'm sure as, you know, sort of the pace of change maybe slows down, we will also sort of not always be doing these every week, because as you know, it's kind of heavy lift. So what our focus is to have a topic that's digestible. To be honest with you, the first 3 newsletters were originally 1 newsletter, and we realized, oh my gosh, this is way too much information. So we chunked it up. So there's a focused area. So, and then just a sort of a summary of what would that mean to do that in a high quality way. So high quality family engagement in this area sort of looks like this. So to provide some sort of recommendations based on that, to provide an example from a couple of Ohio districts or schools that are already implementing this, that folks might look to as an example, and a resource or 2 that are really related to it, that are sort of optional. It's just that sort of extended piece if somebody is interested. So that's where the zone we're trying to stay in, of digestible, not a lot of resources, because we see so many resources coming right now, but really just really more prompts of, if a BLT, a TBT, if district leaders are thinking, if you are working with folks, just some ideas to consider so that this work that we're doing with families is high quality. So that's what this is. That's what the newsletter is. You can see on the screen there how to access those and sign up for those. We are, a way that you could, my ask of you all would be to please share this. Tom, you have a really cute little bear there.
Sorry.
My ask of you all would be to share where you think that it would be useful. Also, if you see these examples of districts, if you're just wowed by some schools or districts or folks that you're working with to say they are really doing this well, let us know, and we would be happy to give kudos to them, to point to them as the 1 or 2 or 3 districts where we're saying, hey, look here, as this example, these folks who are really engaging with families well. We'd like to do that. So if you can shoot us that quickly, we'll do any sort of background work around it. You don't have to do any of the writing. And you can probably see that we write basically 1 sentence about the school. So really trying to keep these doable. Or a topic. If there's a topic that you think this would be really important for us to address, we will. So the first 3 were all about communication. One with when you're communicating to large groups of families. The next one was around those individual connections with families. And then this newsletter this week is around helping to facilitate support groups or groups of families that have similar interests or similar needs. And then the one that we're working on right now is really what we're hearing is a lot of confusion around the role of families. People saying, well, families are homeschooling now. And we kind of want to lean in and say, actually, no, most families are opting for our public schools to continue to school our children. And so the clarification of roles is important for families. And we need to be really cognizant of what folks can do and are able to do and are interested in doing. So we really wanted to sort of provide some thought around helping to really define roles in a way that that families, what is it that families can do, and how do we help them in that, sort of leaning away from, I think there has been a lot of leaning into this idea that we're homeschooling. And so we know that for many, perhaps most families, that homeschooling is not an option for them. So how do we continue to clarify roles for families, and to the ultimate point of helping to support all learners in whatever way that we can best do that at this time. So that's the next newsletter, and there are more coming. Be interested in topics, interested in those examples and things that you can send to us. So that's what that is.
Oh, geez.
And then the next point I just want to make is, so many of you are working with us in Johns Hopkins and Joyce Epstein on the National Network of Partnership Schools. Hey, Tom, if you would just advance that one slide, thanks. And it's really just a logo. So just for you to know, to be looking for in the next couple of days, we have worked with Joyce Epstein to do a couple of things. We listened to you. Thanks to so many of you, I reached out and just had some quick conversations to get your input on how do we reshape this in a way that is going to really make it possible for districts to engage, to keep them moving and keep them excited about this, and also to equip them to do it. So just want you to know, we heard that we need to provide choice. We heard that we need to adapt this and not have big, long, all-day meetings with lots of people. We heard several things. So what we want you to know is that we're going to be coming out this spring or in the next couple of days with some real good direction, so you can talk to districts about how this is going to sort of play out now. And we'll do something around, we'll provide a webinar, a video about that, so that you can share with the districts that you're working with. And then what we'd like to do, since we know it's been a long time since you all were with Joyce and heard from Joyce, we want to come back together with you after the SST Institute in August to give you a state support team virtual meeting with Joyce Epstein. Kind of, let's gear up, let's sort of remember, let's remind, let's get rolling again. Then we have dates in September for, and I'm just going to look at my screen here for a minute. So we're looking at August 17th, if you want to, and these will come out to you in an email to your directors. August 17th right now is a date we have set aside for a meeting with Joyce Epstein, just with state support teams, a virtual meeting that will be about 3 hours. So then, and we'll record it. So if you can't participate, and then a district leader, that sort of a short virtual meeting with district leaders about the 28th that we will also record. That'll just be that awareness time they can ask questions. We'll have that August 28th. We have September dates set. So September and 22nd and 23rd, 2 dates, district leaders and you all pick one. It'll be a 3-hour meeting with Joyce. So she's gonna bring that district leader training and make it shorter. So, but there may be some, those extensions. So now that, okay, we're going to, in these 3 hours with Joyce, we'll do this much virtually, but then please have these conversations after this meeting together with that district leader. And that will be more flexible. So on their schedule, your schedule, how you can do that. And then the following week on the 29th and 30th are 2 different days to choose one of for school teams. And we're going to do those meetings with Joyce in the morning so that if your school team wants to make a day of it and have a morning with Joyce and then an afternoon to do their planning for the year, they can do that. If they want to say, we're just going to do a half day, we're going to do our planning some other time, there's that flexibility. So 2 dates to choose from the week before for district leader, 2 dates to choose from the following week for the school teams. We're trying to do this early enough in the school year to sort of get up and running very quickly. We also just didn't feel comfortable doing it this spring, just knowing that we felt like some districts were saying, yes, we're ready, and others were saying, oh my goodness, we don't know, we can't handle this right now. So we were hoping to do this in a way that we could have everyone ready to go. And then also, just so that you know, for that first cohort of districts, we will bring Joyce Epstein back in the spring. That date's not set, but a day just for them to have time with her. And we hope to do that in person. So sort of a year from now. So after they will do their planning in September, hopefully they'll get up and running and have their action plan that they'll work on and implement through the year. And then we'll bring Joyce back with them to celebrate that first year and to provide some, we'll try to listen to you all and to these districts to what you really want Joyce to address when she comes back. Cohort 2 districts should be on schedule to receive their training next spring and implement as scheduled. So that's the update for NNPS. Please send me any feedback that you can, just so that you know the trainings will be shorter, they'll be virtual, and there'll be some dates to choose from. Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Very cool. And I'll be brief to get to our partners here, but Voices from the Field is coming up here. And I know that many of you have probably already been thinking about it or have kind of your story to share kind of picked out. But I did want to give a few things to just think about as we're moving forward. We are going to ask that you have these submitted by May 31st. And please include a picture or graphic if possible, but like, please, it makes it a lot more appealing and sells your, or not sells your story, but tells your story a lot more clearly. If you need any type of ideas about what to write, or this might be your first time jumping into it, we have all of the past versions up on the website for you to check out, see if you like some other people's writing or style and stuff like that. May give you a sense of what they kind of look like. I also just wanted, because this was shared with me this morning, I wanted to give a moment to Region 5, because they kind of have already been working on theirs. And so they sent this over this morning, and I hope you don't mind sharing a little bit, but really exciting stuff. I just had a second to look over it, but I wondered if Matthew or anyone from SST 5 want to just give us a sense of what you guys are thinking about sharing in your report.
Yeah, Thomas, I'm I wouldn't have shared it if I didn't if it was going to bother me that you shared it with everybody, but I'm going to let Jody step in.
Cool.
Jody should be somewhere in here. She can probably do a little bit better job of explaining the whole day that we had planned. She's got a little bit better relationship with the speaker that we had brought in. So I'll let Jody take it over, if as long as we haven't lost her, I guess.
I'm right here, Matt. Thank you.
Awesome.
What we did is a big trend in education is that students don't necessarily know how to advocate for their own selves. So a couple years back, I made a connection with Dr. Bonnie Michaely, who is at Kent State University in their College and Community Studies program. And she's spent quite a few years developing strategies to help educators, parents, and then also works with students to become more self-aware so that they can eventually learn the skills needed to self-advocate. She talks about setting goals, things like that. So we had a two-part series. The first part was she spent the day working with educators and parent liaisons from a couple districts in our region. And then she did you can see there is the two teams that were probably most engaged with the process as far as, starting to get parents and other people in the schools. Youngstown City Schools has really jumped on board with us. They brought, I believe, 14 parent engagement liaisons. They had administrators, teachers, intervention specialists, and special ed supervisors. So I think that, they got some great conversation going at that time, which actually is kind of led. But what Vonnie talks about is, she talks about that there are really 8 characteristics that have to be involved for people to be engaged. And Matt's done a great job of kind of making a thumbnail from those slides that she used. This is a slide that Matt has used from this because Youngstown, a couple of parent liaisons are involved in the PBIS. So I believe, Matt, you can jump in if you need to, is that he utilized some of those characteristics that Dr. Michaely shared, and he put that into what it may look like in a PBIS school climate, how to, instead of doing to the student, doing with the parent, kind of changing some of the mindset on that. Then I believe the next slide is, the cool thing is that we then had Dr. Michaely spend 2 hours in the evening in the session. We had some parents, continued some educators, and she did a really good job of almost modeling what she had done during the morning session with the staff. So she got to know the students, set up some rapport. This picture right here makes me laugh because the first time she asked this young man a question, the first thing he did is he turned to his mother. His mother is also an educator at Youngstown City, so she indeed knew where this was going because, Dr. Michaely first goes, "I don't want to know what your mom wants you to do. I want to know what you want to do." So it was real interesting. That right there, it was a great activity that she showed the teachers as well as the students, walked each of us going through setting up goals, how to set up goals, how to come up with multiple plans, evaluate which plan is the best plan, and then to put in action one of those. And Dr. Michaely talks a lot about dignity of risk, which is always tough for parents, allowing them to let the student make mistakes, learn from mistakes, grow from mistakes. And Matt found this in his spare time while he's socially distancing that we thought really summarized what we had done. And I've started with Dr. Michaely on this quote here from Ann Landers.
Cool. Well, just super exciting stuff, and really put together pretty appealingly. So appreciate SST 5 and their great work on this for sharing. So gives you a sense of kind of the types of activities people are writing about and celebrating. And yeah, we want to hear 15 other exciting celebrations of the great work that's gone on this year as well. Perfect. So Thanks for sharing, and thank you for giving us the 5 minutes to share that. I just got this morning. I thought, let's just put a smile on my face. Let's get it out there. And thanks to Jody and Matthew and everyone who worked on this. I do want to keep moving to respect, make sure we're respecting everyone's time. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Jen and Michelle from Ocali to give some updates around their work. And I am clicking on the wrong screen. So here you go. There you go. So yeah, thanks for being here, Jen and Michelle, and love to hear from you.
Hey guys. This will be really quick. I just wanted to, just like all of you, Ocali has been really trying very desperately and hard to make sure we are getting resources out there to support families, caregivers, professionals, you guys, educators during this time. And we actually, as of yesterday, launched one piece of our Here to Help campaign. This is something that we started about a week ago. And it's a little video series in which our staff are providing some tips within like a 4-minute quick little video just to help support distance learning for professionals, as well as help support families and caregivers during this time as they, as Barbara said, homeschooling, what does that really look like, and what is the role of the parent, and just trying to make sure that people feel supported with the changes that are happening right now. So as I mentioned, we have a campaign that we have started called Here to Help. We are building on that. We have a lot of resources that are coming our way that we're trying to get out to folks. We are, currently we have a web page that's been set up, and we will be adding some additional pages to that, specific resources to help, again, like I said, families and caregivers, and then a section for professionals. But part of that resource is this video series that we are hosting. We are going to, at 4 o'clock on Facebook, launch a different video during the weekdays with, again, different tips. A lot of our videos that are lined up to go first relate to accessibility and creating accessible environments and creating, working with like Google Classroom, Zoom, and what are some of those accessibility features to really help support students who maybe need some additional supports to be able to connect with their teachers and their classmates, but as well as helping to support teachers who maybe are not familiar with all the accessibility features that are there. So again, just wanted to give you guys a quick update on those things. More is coming. Like I said, please visit us on Facebook at 4 o'clock so that you can see some of these videos, and we will host the videos on our website after they broadcast. So again, just like you guys were trying to make sure that we can get information out there to support people without overwhelming them, because I know if you, just like many of you, those first few weeks, there was so much great information circulating that it was hard to really take a hold of things and start to utilize them. But I'm seeing so weekdays at 4, Facebook at 4 o'clock. But again, once they air on Facebook, about 2 days or so later, they'll show up on our website. They'll continue to appear on Facebook, obviously, and we are encouraging people to watch them, ask questions in the comments, and we'll make sure that we follow up with any responses to those questions or comments. So we that's kind of what's going on in Ocali right now. I haven't had a chance to touch base with Michelle, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to her right now and see if she has anything else to add. Thanks, guys.
Okie dokie, and we really appreciate you, Jen and Michelle, and I look forward to digging into there and seeing what's going on, because this is a strange time, and I am learning as much as ever right now. So we appreciate all the content that people are producing.
I think that Michelle may not be on, so we'll
Okay.
just
Sure.
maybe go on to her, what's going, yeah.
So I wanted to just also create some time. I don't know if any of our partners are here from the coalition or ODE had any updates to share. Now would be a wonderful time.
Hi, everybody. This is Alexandra. Can y'all hear me? I'm from ODE.
Yep.
Awesome. I just wanted to make everybody aware that the department is going to be publishing, should be out and on our coronavirus webpage by the beginning of next week, a resource specifically for families around helping families to engage in the remote learning process. And so that resource was put together and kind of mirrored off of the sections of the forthcoming family engagement framework. And so one section of that resource will be dedicated to communicating with schools, and then one section will be dedicated to helping families support the remote learning that's happening at home, and then a third section of that resource is dedicated to helping families connect with their school and then other community resources in the area. So I will make sure that when that gets published on ODE's website that I get it over to Barbara and Tom and Meredith over at the center so that they can put that out to you guys in whatever way they see fit.
Cool. We really appreciate the work that the department's been doing in the wake of all of this too, to try to keep things organized and keep things moving. Other updates?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of Alexandra, we are continuing to develop guidance around graduation as well, and then also what we call summary of performance. So that's a kind of a document that gets completed when students graduate and exit high school. So we're going to have some guidance soon incorporated into graduation that's currently out there. If we do not return to school this year, what some of the obligations are going to be for districts around summary of performance.
Very cool, and something that we'll all have to be aware of as this continues to evolve over time. So we really appreciate, again, the leadership of the department kind of having to sort through these tough issues on a pretty tight timeline. So thank you all. Any outstanding updates from partners? Okie dokie. Well, we'll keep it moving. We got about 7 more minutes here, and I just wanted to open it up now to you all, see what's going on around you all, things that are good, things that are popping up that we should be aware of, anything that you kind of want to share. Yeah, and Barbara, you have anything to add to this this slide?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just couple thoughts. One is questions that you have. If you got a question or looking for a resource or would like some, whatever, want to pose it to the group, or you just have a great example to share, now's time. We'll just sort of open mic time now.
This is Kim Moritz.
Hi, Kim.
Okay. One question, or one thing I've been thinking about is supporting families in IEP meetings, virtual IEP meetings. So last week was my son's IEP meeting, and we used Zoom for it. So I really think it's a pretty cool thing. If we could, I think a lot of IEP meetings could be moving this way towards the future in the future, but we need something to help to support families in that virtual IEP setting. It's hard enough to go to an IEP meeting face-to-face, and now you're asking families to be and asking to be on video. I felt comfortable doing it, but I was thinking I felt more comfortable than the team did. Like, I know his intervention specialist was as nervous as can be, but she did a great job facilitating it. But I was wondering if the coalition or even O'Cali had something already created. I did come across 2 documents, I'll put them in chat, that are for a parent perspective to kind of help them to prepare for an IEP meeting virtually. I didn't know if anybody else had anything that they came across, but from a parent perspective, participating in an online IEP, a Zoom IEP meeting, it was really interesting. And we had 14 people in the meeting. It was facilitated IEP meeting, so OEC was there. We had DD, the county DD, OOD. I mean, it was a big meeting, and I think it went very, very well. But I just want to help to support other families in that process.
Kim, if I can add to that, this is Jody from State Support Team 5. With that presentation, with our family parent liaisons there, that was probably one of the biggest takeaways that we found from that. They said that the parents are trying to help are very intimidated by special ed, by the teachers, by the just sheer number of professionals. So Amy Szymanski had sent out a link to some of the transition folks about Transcend, and there are 3 family-focused webinar sessions that we're doing. And all 14 of those parent liaisons are amongst a team at Youngstown. I'm hoping that what you're talking about is going to be the end result of how to help parents navigate the system, whether it be digital, in person, and how to get them informed consent and information. So stay tuned.
Awesome.
Others that I'm sure that this is happening in all of your regions. Are there resources anyone else has been using or has found or not found, or things we need to create?
We've had some staff chats about just how the online situation has actually opened a lot of doors into family engagement. Like, we're talking about how people might be more willing to participate from the comfort of their homes because they're sort of in their natural environment. So I just think it'll be really interesting to see how schools maybe shift their perception of families as a result of having these more online interactions, and how it sort of breaks down barriers in a weird way and allows families to not sort of waste that time like coming to the school building, maybe dressing differently or putting on a facade that they may do in a in-person meeting, but really just sort of are in their environment. So I'm excited to hear more stories like yours, Kim, and how that gets sort of documented and appreciated over time, even though for some families it may be sort of a bigger challenge and there may be more barriers, but I think probably it'll be a little bit of both.
Right. Meredith and Barb. I don't know if I unmuted or not. Can you hear
me?
You did.
You're good.
We had a principal meeting through Zoom yesterday, and we kind of just asked them, what are your challenges and what's going well? Mm-hmm. And what was really awesome to hear, a lot of principals had stated that they feel like there's more collaboration with families, and that teachers are really going above and beyond to support families, even offering just to listen, because there are a lot of them who have lost jobs, and academics right now are on the back burner. It's just not the forefront of the problems in the home right now, with not having the money to take care of things they need to take care of for their families. But a lot of districts, and I would say in the small breakout session, at least 8 to 10 of them had talked about just how there's an increase in that relationship piece, and that parents, I think they did kind of break down some barriers and some walls because they need the support, and the teachers are really, I guess, being, a little bit more sympathetic, because I know sometimes coming from the classroom, teachers often will make those excuses about, the family doesn't do this or that. And so I think it's kind of eased some of those biases and stereotypes that teachers have about parents. And then of course, the same for parents and what they feel about the school. So I think, and I talked about this with you guys earlier, like this situation, although it's awful that we are bound to our homes and we'd like to break out, it really has, I think, pushed that family engagement piece. I know with my demo site that I've been working with for the Partnerships for Literacy, we had a little bit of a halt in our plan, and we were shifting leadership with a few people. And then now we had this situation happen, and they've completely moved forward and knocked out a lot of their items, because now they're on Facebook and they're on social media, and that was one of their goals that they had. So I just feel like this has really put family engagement at the focus for districts. And I think in my region, at least, it's not been a focus. So to have those conversations about family engagement, I mean, not many people were ready to start addressing their family engagement. And now I think that it's going to be a central focus moving forward of, you know, what do we do? I mean, what happens when we have our second surge, if we have a second surge, or, you know, those kind of things. So I do feel like this has, you know, given us more purpose, or kind of highlighted that family engagement is really, really, really important when it's not been a focus for a lot of districts. I don't know if anybody had thoughts on that, but that's kind of what I've been seeing in my region, which has been a breath of fresh air, because I tried recruiting a lot of districts for the NNPS project. I had one that was like, yes, let's do it right away. And then the rest of them were like, I don't know. And I sent out a bunch of feelers and nobody was feeling it. And I finally had to go to one that I had a good relationship with and said, listen, this is what you're doing because you have a lot of stuff going on right now and you need this. And he was completely on board after that very blunt conversation. But no, I think that districts are going to kind of look at this a completely different way now and appreciate families. So
yeah,
there's my soapbox.
Love
And
your soapbox.
I'll just report out from Meredith and Melissa that one of the great things that I heard from a district was that they were able to get every single IEP meeting completed with families engaged in it, either through Zoom or by phone, and that overall the families were actually more supportive. I think that they felt more comfortable than having the intimidation of having to go into the school. And they said that any family that did not have technology, they gave a hotspot to and a laptop or some form of technologies that all families could be engaged. So like that was just awesome to hear because
where's this been, right? Like
Yeah.
where's
No one's ever brought this up before.
Also, like, what was their response rate and sort of family participation for the in-person ones? I would love to do, oh my gosh, like a comparison of, you know, districts being able to really engage with every family versus only like the ones that can show up during the
I can say coming from a special field as a supervisor before, I would say our engagement was probably around 50%. And that's really a high end of, you know, our engagement at the elementary school, a lot more so, but as we get into like the older intermediates, it starts to die off. And I would say 50% is probably a high for my district that I was at before.
So just acknowledging we're a little over time, and so I know that folks need to log off and that sort of thing. So these are so when we meet on Fridays, Colleague Connects, it's just all this. It's just chatting and learning from one another and sharing things. And what's interesting to me is that I think I can say fairly positively that we're not writing anything different right now than we've always written. We're not saying anything different now than we've always said. I'm glad that more ears are open and more eyes are directed towards this work. It's wonderful to see. So super excited that this time, you know, has I think changed a lot of the policies and practices and just ways we do things all the time. Like now that we're all like, yeah, and so we're open to these to change, and that's exciting to see the good that has come from that. So and hopefully, yeah, it continues. So we're so super excited for all of you and grateful and want to just pick up with you at any time one-on-one or at our next Colleague Connect, or thanks for tuning in today. And we'll stay on, of course, but for those of you who are just hanging in there waiting for us to say goodbye, then bye. Thanks for joining, and of course we'll just hang out here as well.
Bye.